there everyone, welcome along to another video here with me, Jenny Kirk. It's really great to see you, and today I'm really excited because I've been lent something absolutely incredible, and this is a pre-production model, so just bear that in mind as I review this, but it is fully working. I'm really excited to show you this. So new from Hattons, really long awaited. It's the new Class 66, so come with me and we'll take a look. Well, here it is, finally hitting these shores. It's the pre-production model, as you can see from the sample labels on it, but it's the Class 66, and this is going to be the boxes that they're going to come in. So it's the pretty standard Hattons Originals box, and I'm just looking for the end. There it is. So this particular sample is H4-66-027. Now, they've got quite a lot of different examples. Now the 66, very numerous class, has worn quite a lot of liveries since they were first introduced way back in the late 1990s. Gosh, they have been around an awfully long time. And this particular one, we've got GB Rail Freight Euro Cargo. So I have to give you the little caveat here that I'm not a modern image modeler. So if I sound like I'm not massively knowledgeable on these liveries and indeed these types of locomotives, then do bear with me, because I know a lot of you have been really excited about this. I keep getting asked because you know, I do travel to Hattons an awful lot, if I know when these are coming out. And certainly we're looking at, if you've been pre-ordering them, I think there's a cut-off date, and if you pre-ordered them before a certain date, then you should be getting certain liveries before Christmas. Yes, that's right. So this will be a Christmas present for yourself, or you know, if somebody's bought it for you, if that's the way you've been hanging on for these. Now this particular example has come DC only, and I'm really nervous about doing any kind of damage, so I haven't wanted to delve inside. So I'm going to be running and testing this on DC, but it does have a lot of things like different lighting functions. So if you run it on DC, there's a lot of different things that you can control with that. And also they have ready factory sound fitted examples, and it is their own sound chip and file. So it's not just going to be a generic sound file that you can buy from somewhere else. It has been, as far as I'm aware, recorded off the real locomotives, especially for their sound chips. So certainly one to look forward to. Now we also get, there's a bit of a details bag here, and we've got alternative buffer beams on there, actually full with spring-loaded buffers and everything. So I'm just looking there. I think, yeah, I see what it is. Right, so basically you've got a buffer beam with the open hole, as it were, which allows the NEM pocket coupling to poke through. And then you have a buffer beam that is as per the prototype that you can swap in there. And the locomotive has come with a coupling on one end. So you can see in the bag, we've got one with the slot and one without. And then we've also got all of the buffer beam detail here as well. So there's a lot that you can do with these, and I know that other manufacturers have tried with like plug-in like plugs that just kind of hide the hole for the NEM pocket, but with Hattons what they've done is they've gone for a complete replacement buffer beam, so there's no seams if you're choosing to go that way. Now I'm going to get this out of the box, the big reveal, and actually the first thing which is very apparent with these is just how heavy they are. And I mean, I'm lifting this up and I can tell immediately that one of the things that Hattons have done with the design of this 66 is really get the weight in there. So it's got a very, very heavy metal chassis. There's an awful lot of metal parts used in the detailing as well. And the net sum of that is that this is by far and away the heaviest 00 gauge locomotive that I've yet to come across. And I've actually weighed it up next to, you know, just sort of unscientifically with my hands, to a Bachmann 25, and the Bachmann 25 felt like it didn't weigh anything at all in comparison to the weight of this, it was quite startling to actually pick them up side by side and just feel that Bachmann 25, which is a not insignificant weight, just feel like nothing in comparison. I've also compared it to the Bachmann Class 46, and again, the weight on the Bachmann 46 is quite a heavy locomotive, but this weighs in significantly above. And that, coupled with all-wheel drive, all-wheel pickup, means that this locomotive has a truly amazing haulage capacity. Now, I put this to the test on Weir Yard, and it was one of the things, actually, when they sent me this, I said to them, is there anything that you particularly want me to put to the test? And they said, actually, we're really, really proud of the haulage capacity. So I've done just that. And I don't have any modern image rolling stocks. You have to excuse I've used what I have. And I ended up with a train of, it was around the equivalent of 27 Bogie coaches. There were some short vans in there, but certainly the limitation I found was that once your train gets beyond a certain length, it has a habit at the front of the train, because of the weight involved and the centripetal forces, it actually just started pulling the coaches off the track. And there was no sign of slipping from this locomotive at all. It didn't even seem taxed. So you were not going to have any issues with this, with haulage capability, is what I can deduce from that. And it really is truly impressive. I tried some other locomotives and nothing else in my collection came close. I think that the Bachmann 46 was able to move the train, but there was one heck of a lot of wheel slip from that. But with this, very, very sure-footed. Now, the first impressions on this are really, really good. We move aside from the weight, and you can see that the bogie detail is really impressive. Now, we had the chance to review the Hattons snow ploughs, the ones that were made from the Class 40 bogies, and I thought the detail on them was really exquisite, but this locomotive goes above and beyond. I'm going to turn it upside down. You can see even the brake shoes in there all lined up, and there does seem to be extra space as well. If you wanted to convert these to P4 or EM, that is possible. But one of the things that I would say that is actually quite an impressive function on this, when it's running, it really shows it to the fore, and it is as per the prototype, is that the actual bearing covers on the end of the axles spin with the wheels, and that is exactly the same on the full-sized ones. And Hattons have managed to replicate that perfectly with these sort of inserts that slide onto the end of the axles through the bogie frames. So when it's running, you get that visual representation of the bearing covers on the end of the axles spinning just like the full-sized ones, and that is really a good attention to detail. Other detail on here, we've got appears to be there's a little bit of a spring in those, so they're going to be able to withstand a few knocks there, but we've got all this extra fine detail applied to the bogie. And you can also see on the end here, we've got the factory applied detail to that end with the buffer beam without the NEM pocket poking through, and it does look really, really good. But obviously, you know, if you wanted to run it with a train, there's the other end with the buffer beam with the slot for the NEM pocket fitted. And actually, what's impressed me, it actually has a self-centering mechanism, just like bogie coaches, just to help it get round corners without causing any issues with rolling stock. And it also means that it will negotiate curves far, far better without any risk of derailing what it's pulling. Looking to the roof now, and they've really captured the shape really, really well. The Class 66 has this kind of almost like a peaked roof, and they've got that perfectly realised. We then got the tumble home at the sides. Again, that is really nicely captured. And then we also get all of this roof detail in terms of the silencer and the exhaust. And then actually, it looks like separate metal components. I don't think they are, but it's not moulded on detail. These are all separately applied, and it really does benefit from all of that. We've also got these roof hatches, again with this sort of like almost pyramidal, very flat pyramidal shape. And that is really nicely captured. And it does show well. Against the light, you can see the light and the shadow captured on all of these. And it really does work well with the very, very nicely applied tempo printed details. There's sort of like some kind of warning on there. It's something to do with electrocution risk, but I can't read them, but I've got pretty much every faith that under the close-ups we're going to be able to read what those warning flashes actually have. And then this bit of roof detail has really impressed me. On the front here we've got this kind of grille over, I'm guessing it's something to do with air intakes or the radiator side of things, and it's got an actual metal like mesh over the top, just like the real things. And I'm going to be saying this a lot, I think, through this review. It's going to be just like the real thing, and it very much is. And just feeling that, you can feel it's a very fine metal mesh with the detail of the, I'm presuming something like a radiator array underneath. And it's perfect, really. I suppose there's no other word for it. I've not seen anything quite as fine as that on any other model. You know, we've seen these sort of inlays with a mesh over the top from other manufacturers, but this takes it to a whole new level, I guess. And it is actually quite sturdy. The actual mesh there is prototypically very, very fine, but I'm just running my finger over it, and it's not particularly fragile as well, which is always a really good plus point. Turning to the side of the locomotive, I'm just going to place it down there on its side, and again we've got another effect there with the multi-layers on this mesh, and it is actually pretty robust but very, very fine. And we got almost this sort of concertina effect in there going on, just like the prototype, and it really is nicely done. Cab doors don't open, but to be honest, that's a bit of a gimmick if they do, so not an issue whatsoever. You wouldn't have seen these things running around with the cab doors wide open, so not a problem. Again, robust, separately applied metal handrails. They don't come off, they're pretty well in there, but they're nice and fine. More of these overhead warning flashes applied on there. And then we've got flush glazed windows, and it's something when I've been looking up on the fact sheet for these locomotives, they've got all the different versions of these side cab windows as per the prototype. So when we look at this, number 66756, this is accurate to the livery, but some of the other liveries represent members of the class that have some detail variations, and all of these are taken care of in the Hattons model. So it's not just one body shell fits all. They've actually tooled up for quite a few of the detail differences across the class. In terms of the tempo printing on the side, it really is sharp and well done. You see the GBRF on there, and there's no fuzziness that I can see around the edges of these letters, even though we've got this this sort of ribbed effect to the sides, just like the real locomotives. It hasn't caused any blurring of that tempo printing or bleeding through underneath. It really is nice and sharply applied. The number again, same finesse to that. It's nice and sharp. And the nameplates, those are separately applied, etched nameplates with the red back and the silver highlights. So we've got here Royal Court of Signals. It's a really nice package, I have to say. Moving further along here, we've got more warning flashes, warning marks. There's the TOPS data panel and then GB rail freight on there. Everything is sharp and nicely applied. The silver embellishments there on that raised plate is tempo printed in exactly the right point. You might think that's a little bit of a silly thing to say, it's supposed to be there, but it'd be very easy to have these slightly shifted in the tempo printed process, but that's not happened with this. Everything is perfectly applied. It's also nice to see that some of the detail is added after the paintwork, so you don't get any issues with paintwork going over things that it shouldn't do. It just really is nicely done. The cant rail stripe on there is perfectly straight and true and in the right place. Nicely done, really sharp. And then we look down to the bottom, we've got all of this chassis detail in underneath. And this is really nicely done. The way it's got this kind of boxy utilitarian chassis is perfectly captured on this model. And there's, we've got separately applied pipe work over the top. The detail on this is one of the things that the closer you look, the more detail you find. It's a model that draws you into it with the level of detail that you can find on here. I've just seen just above the fuel filler it says fuel fill. Now it's pretty much impossible to see that with the naked eye. We've just put the macro lens on it and it's there and it's perfectly legible. It's not even fuzzy. And that just shows just how amazing the detail and the finish is on this model. This is actually, I reckon this is the smallest legible writing that we've seen on any model from any manufacturer. And that is absolutely tiny. In fact, on the photograph, you can see a fibre of dust on the other side of the fuel filler, and you can judge from that just how small that writing must be, given the size that little fleck of dust looks. We've got the correct joggling on the bogie frames. Everything is in there. The underslung fuel tanks as well. We've got that the radius perfectly described on there. All of the embellishments, the pipe work. And we've got the fuel gauge. Again, we've got that tampo printed on there. We've got various other detail pieces. It'd be interesting to see under very close magnification some of this stuff. Battery boxes, everything is in there. And now that I've got it upside down, I just want to show you down, hidden away unobtrusively between the battery boxes, there's some dip switches. And what these are for is if you're going to be running this on DC, these allow you to set things like cab lights on and off and direction lights. So if you've not got the convenience of DCC chips in there to be able to set all these, it does very, very conveniently allow you to change these. We've seen that come through from some other manufacturers as well, so it's nice to see that functionality is here on the Hattons model. Other detail differences, well, if we turn it over, the sides on this locomotive are just like the real thing, different on both sides. So on this side, we've got this extra access door and the ladder on there, and that is actually a separately applied detail, but it's moulded from a reasonably springy plastic. So if you accidentally catch this, it's not going to come flying off, which I think actually just goes to show the amount of thought that's gone into this, not just to get the detail accurate, but also to make this actually quite a robust model. It's going to stand up to handling. I've been handling this, and actually it's come out of it really, really well. I haven't ended up with a pile of bits thinking, where's that come from? They're just all staying put. And that really is what you want to see from these, but it is happening. We've got another grille. I'm just looking. Yeah, this is a grille which isn't on the other side on these locomotives, and I really like the effect on this sort of mesh overlay, because it's capturing the differences that are there on the real locomotive really, really well. It's not just a basic metal mesh that's been cut to shape and shoved over all of these apertures. Each of these has a custom-made mesh that works for the area it's going in, with the detail to match the area it's going into. I mean, this is amazing. Some of the level of detail. And then we've also got this, is that actually tampo printed or is that raised detail? Yeah, that is sort of raised lettering there on the bogie frame, and that is amazingly sharp. I mean, these bogies, the more you look at that, it is a work of art. It's beyond an ordinary model. This is a work of art. So anybody who's into the modern image scene, and I know that there's a lot of the people who watch my channel are really into the modern scene, and I have been asked, almost tongue-in-cheek for an awfully long time, when are you going to get yourself a nice Class 66? Well, here it is, and I've had it running on Weir Yard, and I can't fault it. This is an amazing model with an attention to detail that I can't fault a single thing on this. If it's there on the full-size model, it's here on the 00 model. These have been very long awaited from Hattons, and I think one of the reasons for that is that they have been determined for this to become the definitive Class 66 model. This is a model that in 20, 30, 40 years' time could quite easily still be on the market as you see it here and will hold its own over any other developments, because there is nothing out of place on this model. This model is like they've taken the full-size thing and just put it through a shrink ray. This really is an amazing model from Hattons. To be honest, my scores is getting a bit pathetic. So many things are getting a 10 out of 10, but it just shows how much detail and love and sweat and tears and passion is going into these models that I can't fault a single thing on this model. I have to give it a 10 out of 10, and it really does deserve that 10 out of 10. If you want a Class 66 and you want that Class 66 to be perfect, then this is the Class 66 model that you need to get. Well, I hope you really enjoyed that. I certainly did. And it's been great to have your company. I've really enjoyed showing this model to you. But until next time, don't forget to like this video and share it too. Let everybody else know about what we're doing here. And also you can head on over to Patreon if you want to, and help to support us to make the videos that you want to watch. And until next time, you take really good care of yourself. This is me, Kirk, saying bye for now. Today's video has been brought to you in part thanks to the generous donation of my fans on Patreon. And a huge thanks goes out to Anthony Kidson, Michael Churchwood, Alec Ralph, Anthony Hunt, William Wade, Wayne Johns, Offshore Alan, oorail.co.uk and Tepic. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.